Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. We are on episode 31. This is all about detachment and making no
Hmm.
one your project.
Yes.
Hi,
Paige.
Jamie.
Hey, this is a really good topic, timely topic. Detachment is something I'm working on in my life. So, today, as we're focusing on detachment, it is such a big part of recovery. And I would say it's one of the top skills in our journey of recovery. I use it all the time. Detaching from other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions brings forward the realization that we can only be responsible for ourselves and
Mhm.
in those areas, of course, and control what we can control, which is our thoughts, our reactions, our stories we tell ourselves, the perspectives we have. And most importantly, what other people think is not in our control, and
Yes,
what they do is not in our control. We can only control what's in our, what we can actually influence ourselves,
which
right?
is not much.
Which is us, which is
Yeah,
us. We cannot influence other people. It's a,
right.
it's a, it's a falsehood to think we can.
So let's explore a little bit more about what emotional detachment is. I think it's choosing to allow someone else to take responsibility for their own actions and inactions, actually, out of love instead of the fear of losing control. So, for an example, when my kids were in school, I panicked about homework every single night. Believe me, I was the only one who was worked up in the house. No, everybody else was at peace because they knew they didn't have to worry about it, because they knew I, through my panic, would take care of it and make sure it got done. But it got ugly after school. And like I said, there's no one more worked up than me. We had more than one parent teacher conference about late or incomplete homework. And finally, one day I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done doing my times tables. And if you want to repeat third grade, then be my guest. I
Mhm.
invite you to do so. It's totally up to you if you want to do the homework or not. I'm out. Peace out,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So I laid all the schoolwork at my children's feet from that day forward, and you can sink or swim. I am not helping you become responsible by hovering over you. That's a
Right.
crippling act for me.
Right.
So guess what? All five of our kids actually ended up graduating from college without the help of me doing their homework anymore.
Exactly. How amazing that is. Yes. How amazing that is. That is something that I actually, uh, my husband and helps one of his kids with homework on the regular, and it drives me crazy because she's a very smart young woman and there's no need to do the hand holding that he does. But I think he's afraid to let go, so to speak, and
Hmm.
let her fly. And you know what? When he does, she does just fine. She does
Yeah.
amazing, and
Hmm.
he's much more at peace too. So
We
and we are.
Yeah, we just have so much of a great vested interest in the outcome of our children, right? It's hard. I'm not saying this is easy. It's
No,
hard.
no. So choosing to allow, when we think about choosing to release attachments to worry, to anxiety, fear over things we can't control. So, I this is the action of detachment. When I moved, to a place that I rented for work in New Jersey,
Hmm.
it was took me a year to find the right place. I was patient, but I was persistent. Found a great place, great location, perfect for our needs. It's a perfect little beach bungalow, and 5 months into the lease, the landlord decided to sell the building, which in the town I'm in is it's a hot commodity,
Yeah.
and there's no guarantees that they were going to keep any or all of the renters that they have.
Hmm.
And there are many people that will be tear homes down and rebuild. So I have no idea what I'm going to do from a living situation perspective. As far as, I mean, I'll find something, but I would like to find something in the town I want to be in, not just live anywhere.
Right.
So I have to, you know, I have to let go of the idea that I can control the outcome, because I can't. I can control what I can control, which is my actions, what I bring to the table, how I interact with the new owners and the other people around me. I can control the things that I choose to do to make the home I live in beautiful, or peaceful. but I can't control any of the other outcomes. Who buys it, what they decide to do with it. If, you know, the fact that I think I can even change their mind about it, about letting me stay is a fallacy. There's just no good that can come from the constant worrying about it.
Right.
So that act of detachment really is for my peace.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, you're so right too. There is nothing you can do to alter other people's behaviors.
Yeah.
Some other things when it comes to emotional detachment is choosing to find happiness in areas of my life in spite of any other unhappy situation I might be going through. This is hard and it takes practice. I've had times where relationships that were close to me became fractured, and it's been some of the greatest pain I have ever experienced. I've also had girlfriends in similar situations, and as we've talked at length about what do we do when our hearts are broken, the best solution we have come up with is to carry on. Everything I read just says, carry on, keep doing the things we
Mhm.
love, volunteer, play tennis, enjoy hobbies. You get the drift. Just keep living our lives, understanding that we can only control what we can control, and other people have their own rights to their feelings and actions. Sometimes part of detachment is just accepting others' wishes, even when we don't understand them. That really hurts if we don't understand why their
Oh,
wishes
absolutely.
are not
But
in line with ours, or if we don't agree. And again, I can't
we're
repeat
not
this
God.
enough. This is hard.
Mhm.
Not only is it hard, but oftentimes it's unfair or unjust. And
Yes.
especially when you can't do anything about it, it's hard.
Yeah. Yes. Choosing to let go of the need to control how other people feel is another form of detachment. So we choose to let go of the need to control how other people feel. Which, by the
Hmm.
way, the fact that that sentence is even written is also a fallacy, right? That we even think we can control
Yeah.
how other people feel. We can't.
Hmm.
I have my own life experience and thoughts and perspectives that color my emotions and have installed triggers or pain points for me.
Hmm.
And knowing these things that they do color the way that I perceive the world and my perspectives, that's my responsibility to know that about myself, and to, once I do know about it, to apply and to sort of live to it. The same applies to other people. It's a waste of time and energy for me to think I need to control other people's feelings because I haven't had their life experience. There's no way I could control their feelings or try to impact their feelings. I
Hmm.
cannot make another person feel a certain way, just like they can't make me feel a certain way.
That's a good
It's
point.
it's me making me feel that way. It's not them
Hmm.
doing anything to me. It's all a choice or a triggered response based on my lived experience, and
Right.
theirs is based on their lived
True.
experience.
Great. That's a great point. So another one is choosing to learn to accept when the things cannot be fixed, changed, or perfected as I would like. So I have a couple of relatives that I have had to draw hard boundaries around, and currently with those people, there's no contact for now. I love that prepositional phrase for now
For
because it
now.
leaves the door open and it lessens the pain. But for now, that's the safest place for me. And that safety is my number one priority for myself. It's my first responsibility. I owe that to myself. These were new concepts to me until I'm going to say mid 50s, but this goes back to accepting there are things I cannot control and that this is the best situation for now. That really takes, as I said, the pain down several notches. And I'm able to look at it with logic then and less emotion, which also is very helpful.
Hmm. I agree. I totally agree. Um, when we choose to detach from obsessing about others and learning how to allow people the freedom to be who they are, what we're really doing is allowing others to have the freedom and dignity to live their lives. And
Hmm.
I know that sounds sort of obvious, but
Hmm.
it really is true for me, learning to detach from obsession about others. And I don't mean like obsessive girlfriend obsession, but just
Hmm.
thinking, well, he should do that, or she should do this, or why didn't she think that, or what she really
Hmm.
should, think about this. That's not, none of that is a good use of my energy or time. It's
Mhm.
not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to do anything for me.
Mhm.
And so when I think about, it is my job as part of my recovery to let others live their lives,
Mhm.
and to wish them well as they do. It's not
Mhm.
my job to control anyone else. I'm not the creator of the universe.
If only. I
I don't want
think
that. I don't
what
want that job.
wouldn't this world be so much better if you were, Jamie?
No,
Can you not
no, it'd
be in
be a
charge?
mess. It'd be a mess if I was in charge. I was in charge of my life, so I thought, and we landed me squarely in recovery.
Okay, touche. So the other thing when it comes to emotional detachment is we choosing to catch myself when I am obsessing over people, situations, and experiences in ways that deprive me of joy. So
Hmm.
that's the problem, is the obsession is a thief of joy. So
Hmm.
as a mother, especially, you always worry about your children. Humorously, I used to think that when my children were infants, I always thought if they just get past this crib death phase, I won't worry as much. And then if they had learned to walk, I'll worry less. Then when they learn to talk, then I'll worry less, and so on and so on and so on. Ironically, as they get older, the consequences just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And thus the worrying over long-term effects can keep you up at night. Instead of, falling down and scraping their knee, you've got major consequences that you
Hmm.
you concern yourself. They learn to drive, they start to date, they leave home, they start a family, and then the responsibilities that come with a family. So this is a big one that you have to master if you ever want to sleep at night again. I remember hearing this story of a mother. She was sharing about how her daughter was on hard drugs, and for a long time she did not sleep at night. She was just waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the police to knock at the door with some tragic results. And
Hmm.
finally, I think out of exhaustion, probably, she realized she had turned over all of her
Yeah.
power to this horrendous situation. It
Mhm.
literally was controlling her. And this was
Absolutely.
over something she had zero control
Mhm.
over. She didn't even know where her daughter was most of the
Exactly.
time. So she turned it over to God and she went to sleep and she started living her life again. But again, I'm going to point out this was a process. This took her years of pain and suffering to evolve into it. We kind of talk about this being recovery maturity. So
Absolutely.
it just, I mean, life is the best teacher, right? When you go to
Mhm.
the school of hard knocks, those are the lessons that you remember.
Yes. And, I'm as part of my recovery, because I've got people in my life who are in addiction. And certainly as a recovering addict myself, it helps me learn recovery principles as I mature in recovery. I'm part of a families of alcoholics and addicts recovery group.
Hmm.
That's, a major recovery movement in the world. And I am always better for learning this lesson that, the addict in my life might be addicted to alcohol,
Hmm.
but I'm addicted to the addict. Just like the story of your friend, right?
Mhm.
They were addicted to their child's
Yes.
addiction and worrying
Yes.
about their child and their child's choices
Mhm.
controlled their life. It's the same thing. It's recovery 101 is
Mhm.
when, that is why that codependency is so dangerous for us, because we are not addicted to a substance per se. We're addicted to the person who's addicted to the substance. And then in my
Mhm.
case, I'm addicted to substances and addicted to the people and the substances. So I've got both. But lucky me, I'm a double winner, as
You
they
are
say.
no giver upper.
Nope, I sure am not. So I was able to transfer that addiction from food to people right away. And sure enough, all the people that I found when I first started in the dating world, when I was in recovery after the food, all of them were addicts. Either, and as I
Interesting.
matured in my dating and matured in
Mhm.
my own recovery, they were actually recovering addicts.
Interesting.
And then, finally, thankfully, you know, was able to, cultivate a mature relationship with a man who has does not have any substance addictions. And I'm very
Nice.
grateful for that, or a history of them.
Mhm.
I came across another really good summary of detachment. This is really helpful. Detachment is experiencing our feelings without allowing them to control us, right? So we talk a lot about detaching from people, situations, and maybe thoughts, right? And now it's saying detachment is experiencing our feelings without allowing them to control us. So it's the detachment from feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping back and looking at things objectively,
Mm-hmm.
let go and accept what we cannot change. We detach from others' choices, knowing that their spiritual work is not ours to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Huge.
beautiful. It's huge. We choose how we will act rather than just reacting. So we're actually planning ahead or thinking about, when I feel this way in response to something I'm given, I'm going to choose to do this instead of that. We
Mm-hmm.
step away from harmful cravings or people that are dysfunctional or toxic. Detachment is a deep breath of peace and patience in response to unexpected anger. So when I think about, in my recovery, when I would feel triggered, they would like totally take over my, of course, my amygdala would light up, but I had a lot of physiological responses in my, vagus nerve. Just, I'd call it the volcano, and it would run from my stomach all the way up to my brain, and I would just spout off whatever things came to me. And now I am learning, and it was, not a good situation. And now I'm learning how to just take that deep breath and actually to, engage the parasympathetic nervous system in a healthy way instead of in an unhealthy way, just to relieve the stress by saying whatever was on my mind. Now I relieve the stress by taking those deep breaths.
Do,
With Go ahead.
sorry. I just am so curious. Do you have the capability of pushing that pause button now when,
Yes.
and that's what my biggest issue that I have had with some people that are close to me. It's in the brain, out the mouth, and let's
Yes.
go to 1,000, and then I'll ask questions later.
Yeah.
And then so much damage is done.
Well, that's how I grew up. Like I grew up with that example set for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought people did. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand that that's not
So much damage. Oh man,
tons of
so much.
damage, tons of damage, tons of
Well,
damage.
love that what that the description that you just gave about detachment. There are so many things I liked in that. And I love the thought of looking at things objectively, similar to gentle curiosity, which takes the pain down so much. Also, letting go of things that we can't change helps a lot. And
Yep.
lastly, I love, love, love that part about the spiritual work is not ours to do
Right.
for other people. That was like, duh. But
Mhm.
it really relieves you from the burden of worry, panic, and sadness. I guess I would say that detachment, when performed well, it's just liberating. It's
Yeah,
freeing
it is.
from I maybe the idiot part is it's freeing you from what you think you've got a responsibility somewhere in there, and you
Exactly.
don't. You
No.
have no business in there. And to add one more, I like the idea of detaching with compassion. Not getting sucked into someone else's mess doesn't mean you don't care, but logically you can't suffer based on something you have absolutely no control over. Compassion, yes,
Right.
but
Right.
suffering, no. Otherwise,
Exactly.
you can let it destroy you. I was having a conversation with someone that I was working with this morning, and we were talking a little bit about detachment. She had a spouse that would berate her with calling her names. If she made a
Mm.
mistake, he would do a tirade of names. And she said, I can't believe he really thinks that.
Mhm.
And I said, have you ever asked him if it's true, if he
Mhm.
really does think it? And she said, oh, well, no. And I said, one form of detaching, if you're really wanting to know, if you're really seeking information, you could simply say, do you really think that? Is that
Yep.
really true? And I said, and here's, I'm going to give you an example of two ways to ask it. If you really are wanting to detach from the answer and just have pure, gentle curiosity, if you just want the information so you can know what to do next. I
Right.
said, you can say, just like I said to you can ask him, is that really true? Do you really feel those words are true about me? Or you can say, is that true? Do you really think that? So
Exactly.
one way with the tone and timbre is
Mhm.
asking with gentle curiosity. The
Yep.
other one, you are attached to the outcome and you've already
Right.
set the stage So
That's
do you understand how you ask a question
yeah, it matters.
shows your detachment, and it's as important part of the conversation. Your tone and timbre is as important as the words you say in communication. But if you
Yes.
really want to detach, then you ask in a way that shows you are just sincerely
Mhm.
seeking information for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah, and exactly. And pain is necessary. Pain is part of life, but suffering is optional. And
Yes.
we don't have to, we can feel the pain. We don't have to turn it into the suffering where your example is a perfect way to say that.
Yeah.
We can invoke our own suffering
Yeah.
by
Yes.
saying things certain ways, and
Right.
we can dissipate the suffering by saying things other ways.
Right. I call it throwing gasoline on a conversation. I
Yeah,
mean, or on a fire. I mean,
yeah,
same thing. But
exactly.
what's the goal here? Do we want to just escalate to where no one's listening and everybody's just saying one defensive remark after another, or do we want to open up the lines of communication and get somewhere? So I
Exactly.
digressed.
I agree. And you know what? If I'm feeling triggered, it's not my loved one or friend or person I'm speaking to. It's not their responsibility to manage my triggers. It's not their
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to say things
True.
differently because I'm triggered. It's not. It is my responsibility to manage my triggers. In the world we're living in today, I think that this is a deeply understated lesson. It is not. There's no way I could possibly know another person's triggers. There's no way. I've
True.
never had their life experience. How could I
Right.
possibly know? Even if I was
Mm-hmm.
their counselor or their parent, I
Mm-hmm.
still wouldn't know what triggered them. Believe me when I say I hear, many children and even adult children of parents saying, my mom has no idea that this upsets me. My dad has no
Mm-hmm.
idea that this hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're not in our heads. They don't know what we
Mm-hmm.
know. They don't feel
Mhm,
what we feel. So it's
mhm.
an it's a colossal waste of time to try to put my triggers on someone else
Yeah.
and expect that they're going to mind read it and know how to avoid it. Not going to happen.
We need these thought bubbles floating
Yeah.
around. That would save everybody a lot of time and trouble.
Oh, I don't know if I want my thoughts floating around there.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the next topic we're going to talk about, it crosses over a little bit into
Mhm.
forgiveness, and it's easier to detach when you see how people couldn't have been any other way, or in other words, how they were a product of forces that they had no control over.
Mhm.
I have heard Oprah say forgiveness is giving up the hope that a situation could have turned out any other way. When
Yeah.
we were doing our forgiveness series, we talked a lot about compassion being the ultimate when it came to forgiveness. So
Mhm.
then the question becomes, how do you come to compassion? So and here's kind of what we came up with was when you come to understand why people turn out the way they do, it opens the door
Right.
for a little bit of compassion. And don't mix that up with boundaries. I'm not saying that's the same as boundaries,
Yeah.
but you understand, you have a better understanding. And so it
Absolutely.
it helps with forgiveness. So that leads to the next obvious question of, does compassion mean you don't lay down boundaries with people?
No.
And like I said, it's no, 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 no.
Two different things.
Yep, I can have compassion for people I've cut out of my life. In fact, I think forgiveness is not wishing someone harm, even if you limit contact. I think that's a big part of forgiveness. Is I'm just,
Mhm.
if I can get to the place where I I'm neutral, I'm
Yeah.
not wishing harm, I think that's a nice start. So
Yeah.
detaching from a harmful act is recognizing the full situation for what it is, accepting it, and moving on without suffering long term. I
Mhm.
even make a practice to pray for some of
Yes.
the people that I don't have contact with. So that's part of my forgiveness too. That works in that equation for me too.
Mhm.
So that's also my form of compassion with the boundaries in place. It's
Mhm.
loving from afar.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, understanding the way some people choose to live or act is compassion in action.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean I do the same thing, right? So
Mhm.
detachment is being able to say, like, I get why this person is choosing to do this. And
Mhm.
I also don't blame them. I don't judge them. I don't have any emotion about them choosing to do what they're doing. That to me is showing a maturity and recovery. It doesn't mean I would do what they do. It doesn't mean that I would identify or agree with them. It could just mean, like, I'm letting you have your experience and make your choices, and I'm letting me have mine.
Mhm.
Um, compassion, I can have compassion for someone doing what's right for them, right?
Yeah.
And that is
Mhm.
another act of forgiveness, if you will. Um,
Mhm.
and my compassion clouding my need for boundaries, it doesn't happen typically. I'm able to see, okay, I can be compassionate, but I don't have to overextend myself with you. I don't have to have,
Mhm.
to be part of your class or of what your project. I can I can sort of detach from the way that I engage so that I can stay compassionate, right? And that's an example of a boundary. Um, so how do you know when to still step in and rescue,
Mhm.
or just let others suffer consequences, or when to tell someone what to do or hold back your opinion?
Oh man, this is good. This is hard. And it's situational, especially if you're dealing with minors. I'm going to make sure that caveat is well understood. But if someone's altered in some way, that's another caveat. But if
Mhm.
you're dealing with a rational, responsible adult, even if they are adult children, you have to detach and let them make their own choices. It's
Yeah.
very hard to watch if you see the train wreck coming. And
Mhm.
usually at this stage of the game, you've lived long enough that you can see the train coming around the track.
Yeah,
But how
unfortunately.
many times have you had a girlfriend go back to a bad boyfriend? And quite frankly, how many times did you do it yourself?
Of
I've
course.
done it. Believe me, no
Mhm.
one could have talked me out of being, quote, DUM, unquote, at the time.
Mhm.
But I had to learn the hard way, just like people younger than me. And hopefully
Yeah.
that through their experience, they do learn lessons and don't repeat them. But
Mhm.
ouch.
Mm, very true. It's never, and I have not raised children of my own. But so that's obviously with minors, that's different, right? It's your
Right.
responsibility as a parent, one
Right.
of the many, to instill these lessons in your children, to instill confidence in your children, to instill clarity and discernment, with the help of, the community you're part of, the spiritual practices you have. But beyond children who are underage and unable to care for themselves, it is not my responsibility to step into another person's life and rescue them
Mhm.
unless they're an underage or physically incapacitated adult or
Mhm.
child. People have to learn the consequences of their actions, and it's not my responsibility to teach them.
You're right.
I used to think it was, but it's
Mhm.
just not. It's just not.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I love that. So finally, when it comes to addiction, detachment is the courage to let go of another person's addiction while preserving the love you have for them. But I
Mhm.
mean, how do we do that? How do we detach and love someone at the same time? It's so hard. Whether it's food or drugs or gambling or shopping, it's all hard.
Yeah,
You have to make sure you are protected in every way and still love them. And I'm going to even say that l- protecting yourself is a form of loving them. And I
absolutely.
and
And
and I
loving you.
think, yes, the more you protect yourself, the greater capacity you do have to love someone else. But sometimes it has to be from afar. We've
Mhm.
talked about that. And I might add, sometimes it's easier to love than another. And sometimes you might love them more than at other times.
Yes.
But I have had close connection with addiction, me personally with sugar and others in my close circle. It's
Mhm.
everywhere in every size, shape, and form. It's a very big
Yep.
challenge when you see them walking the path of destruction
Oh, yeah.
without
Oh, yeah.
wanting to just step in and remedy the problem. But
Right.
boundaries are still an act of love.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. When I think about taking it one day at a time, right? It's hard work. It takes boundaries, it takes
Mm-hmm.
focus, resilience, and connection to a mature recovery community to facilitate this. It's not, you know, it's not um going with my instincts, because my instincts got me into recovery. So it
Mm-hmm.
has to be allowing the other person the dignity to skid along the bottom of their recovery journey, and to figure it out, to see it, to pull themselves up, and to keep on trucking. It's it is the only thing that that kept me focused when I was really skidding along the bottom. Was I remember thinking, there's no one coming to save me. I have to do this
Mm-hmm.
myself. I have a choice to make. I can either let myself just dwindle and you know live in this building until they, pull me out because of eviction. But that's not me. That's not me. What is me is just, okay, I've got this. I'm going to figure out a way. I've got a community around me. I've got spiritual and religious practices that support it. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard work, right? It's definitely harder than just throwing up your hands and letting yourself just sort of go with the flow, without trying to put any effort in.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it, of course, it talk about a lot pulling levers, right? It had me pulling a lot of the different levers of my recovery, and I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better for it.
Yeah,
Better
I
for it.
love that. Great answer. Well, this has been a great episode. I love this conversation about detachment because we all need to do it, right? It's just human nature to get sucked into so many of these situations. And if we can learn more about detachment, I think we can spare ourselves a lot of suffering. So, one
Yeah,
final note about detachment, and this is a really good one. So, listen up. Holding on to an idea just because you have become attached to it creates anxiety. So let that sink in for a minute.
yep,
Holding on to an idea just because you've become attached to it creates anxiety. Once you detach from the desired outcome, you can stop worrying about it.
that's right.
The truth is that most attachment is about control. And
Mhm.
this is the other one. Everybody lean in. Control is an illusion. It causes anxiety and suffering.
Absolutely.
So it's
Absolutely.
better to get on with your life, even when you don't get exactly what you want.
Exactly. When you release the desire for control over others' lives, it sets everyone free. It really does, ourselves
Hmm.
included. Those endless hours of frustration can be turned into fruitful days of creativity, connection with your spiritual practice, connection with recovery, connection with your community. Those endless hours of frustration, when we think about the way that it can unleash our creativity, right? It it also helps us navigate relationships, because we're able to detach from behavior of another person instead of
Hmm.
detaching from the person,
Hmm.
right? And even if we need a break from that person for a few minutes or a part of a day, so we can get ourselves in a better headspace, at least we're able to say, look, I'm still here, I'm still in your life, and I want you in mine, but I need some time to process the choice you made, or what you said, or how you said it. um the idea, because if not, right, we can unintentionally make our partners feel abandoned,
Yeah,
which is not what we want to do. The focus should be on appreciating someone else's point of view. That really is the whole idea of detachment, versus winning, right? Winning the
hmm,
argument, winning the conversation. That will spare you from the downward spiral of distance and hurt, because that
hmm.
is, I've experienced it. It is hard. In a relationship, the win-lose game is the same as lose-lose. Very
I
true.
love that so
I do
much.
too.
Your point that you made about when you detach with your partner, or detaching in a relationship can make your partner feel abandoned. This
Mhm.
may be new for them. They may not be used to you doing boundaries or detaching from, they have a fit and you stay calm. They're like, well, what's something's changing here.
Yeah, they'll
So
push back. Yeah.
yeah, you have to allow them a little time to get. catch up with your recovery maturity
Yeah,
in air quotes. So
that's true.
we hope this discussion has brought you closer to discovering that sweet spot of detachment and where it fits nicely in your life. And as always, we love your comments and feedback. So anything that you want to share, we'd love to hear.
Yes. Fewer questions. First one. I keep hearing about emotional detachment, but sometimes I worry I've taken it too far. How do I know when too much is too much? Paige, what do you think about that?
I think when it gets to be too far, when it starts separating us from those we should be responsible for,
That's right.
when it causes us to make decisions that harm others in our lives, when we feel like we should be attached, but we are not, there's something that's a message to the brain that something's not quite right. It's imbalanced. So especially when it comes to children, we have to be very, very careful.
Yes, yes, so true. I have number two, I have a close relative that's a big drinker, probably would be considered an alcoholic. It's especially hard during the holidays around them. How do I detach and still be around them? So, it's hard if possible, right, to focus on that relationship, but not participate in the behavior might be a start.
Hmm.
So if there's ever an opportunity that arises for a conversation organically, that might be the time to say something. Again,
Hmm.
I remember that I'm not able to change another person. I'm able to make a
Hmm.
request about something I need or want. I'm not able to change the other person. But every time that I do some changing, I do some
Hmm.
contemplating, I do things differently, all of my relationships get better.
Hmm.
So that's how, when I think about your question here on this white page, is a focus of an alcoholic and the people that love them. It's a focus of those programs. So
Yeah.
they need to, you need to remember that there are ways who there are ways where somebody can get help, and you
Hmm.
can sort of stay on the outer circle of it, so
Hmm.
that you don't have to be pulled into the drama, pulled into the pain of
Hmm.
their drinking.
Goes to the conversation we were having just the other day too, that you don't alter your value system to make someone else feel
Right.
comfortable. That message just came back
That's so
loud and
true.
clear to me. This is a perfect example of that. You don't have to engage in the drinking with them if that's not your value system. So
Exactly.
number
Exactly.
three, detachment to me just feels more like an excuse to give up. Am I wrong?
Mm,
Well, we understand how it can feel like that, but detachment is actually a very active state of being. It's accepting
mhm.
the situation for what it is, even when you can't do anything about it. Giving up means you have no hope for the future.
That's right.
Detaching is a form of protecting your emotions in the present.
Yeah. And it's a form of controlling what you can control, because
Yeah.
it's not about giving up. It's about saying, hey, I have no control over that. So
Hmm.
I'm
These
gonna
are my
give that to the
limits.
universe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 And it's knowing your limits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I know, that last one, how do I know if I'm detaching in a healthy way, or I have just gone numb? I actually prefer numb. Is that bad? So it's bad in the sense it may come back to haunt us at inconvenient times. It's much better, Paige, and Paige and I are on the same page here for sure, to deal with the situation and process your emotions and let them work their way through. When
Hmm.
you are numb, you are unstable to let them work their way into into your lives, or let them, when we're numb, we're sort of stuck, right? No one can get in, we can't get out, we can't express, we can't process. It's like we're stuck when we numb it. And certainly for me, the numbing was around food too, right? I would numb and then I would use food to do it.
Hmm.
So, and people use all kinds of substances or process addictions to numb, um, or to extend the feeling of numbness.
Hmm.
So we're unable to fully participate in life, and we become the observer of our lives. Uh,
Yeah.
we feel distant from others. We tend to isolate. We have lack of interest in what we used to find enjoyable, not feeling anything in situations that would usually generate strong emotions.
Right.
This is, very, very typical, especially for me in my addiction, and sadly feel panic or terror when strong emotions eventually break through.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why it feels better to face the music and deal with what's in front of you.
Hmm. Agree.
So again, if you're questioning if you're going numb, probably are in some capacity. So it's really good to look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do to face this situation? What
Hmm.
can I do?
Hmm. That's great. No, I love that answer so much, because don't you think that's everybody's preferred method? Sweep it under the carpet, bury it
Yeah.
deep down so that you
Yes.
never see it again. And
Yes.
hallelujah.
Yes. That is everyone's preferred method,
Problem solved.
but it definitely does not, does not serve anyone. At least it doesn't serve me. I can't speak
Yeah,
for other people, but it doesn't serve me.
it
So,
doesn't.
Paige, great job.
Yeah.
Great job. Great topic today.
Yeah.
Detachment is something all humans can benefit from learning about. So we're glad you're here. We hope that you found this useful.
Yes. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.